Bonjour, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Donc, à peu près, je crois, j'aurai à peu près 20 minutes de questions peut-être pour le département Tourisme, Patrimoine et Culture et plus ou moins 10 minutes, plus ou moins pour transport.
OK, merci.
Ouais. Merci. Je suis très heureux de pouvoir prendre la parole aujourd'hui en comité. Et puis, ma première question, j'aimerais savoir ce que le ministre fait présentement pour assurer la réouverture rapide des endroits où on, au niveau de la culture. On sait que les concerts, les salles de concert sont toujours fermées malgré des restrictions très semblables qui ont été soulevées. Je pense au regroupement de 50 personnes, je pense aux lieux de culte, aux églises qui sont réouverts, je pense à plusieurs endroits qui ont le droit de fonctionner, mais encore, on a très clairement quelque chose que je ne comprends pas. Pourquoi est-ce que les lieux, les salles de spectacle qui ont un plan de réouverture, qui sont prêts à réouvrir, qui sont prêts à s'assurer qu'on respecte les mesures de distanciation sociale. Donc, j'aimerais que le ministre m'explique pourquoi et j'aimerais aussi que le ministre me dise est-ce qu'il est en train de faire la pression nécessaire pour la réouverture promptue de ces centres. Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour cette question. Ça, c'est une bonne question. J'avais bonne nouvelle. Oui. Demain, c'est ouvert pour un concert, pour un venue. Si les personnes qui attendent font le social distancing. So, I'll just make sure I'm not saying something I shouldn't be saying. So, it was announced that tomorrow, the venues will be open for concerts, and again, there are some requirements for social distancing, and if there's a specific venue that you're possibly thinking about that maybe hasn't gone through the steps in order to get that permission, but even permission is not the right word because and that was something that again. That whole discussion between the COVID-19 that your leader is a part of and the Liberal leader and the leader from PNB, part of that whole process led to the announcement that they will be able to open tomorrow. And again, there's some procedural things about ticketing and social distancing, but I think it's very good news. Je pense que c'est très, and so you can tell the concert goers that get ready, but again, be cautious.
Merci beaucoup pour cette belle nouvelle. Et puis, cela étant dit, là maintenant, ça c'est une excellente nouvelle pour les gens qui vont au concert. mais il faut aussi s'assurer qu'on s'occupe bien des artistes et de tout ce qui se passe autour des artistes, hein? Des concerts, les arts, la culture, la scène des arts de la culture est beaucoup plus que juste nos artistes, mais bien les gens qui travaillent autour pour s'assurer, qui ont grandement souffert. J'oserais dire, c'est un secteur qui a été très touché. C'est un secteur qui est déjà très difficile à faire sa vie dedans. Et donc, je veux m'assurer avec le ministre, est-ce qu'il va y avoir de l'aide supplémentaire pour s'assurer que nos artistes et tous les gens qui les entourent vont pouvoir bien faire cette reprise des activités-là. Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour cette question. Et je comprends bien le défi, le people qui travaillent et font ce boulot. I won't bore you with the discussion I had with staff the other day when we were briefing about my acting in school and university and how I appreciated the people that made the sets and made wrote the scripts and turned the microphones on and off and put the lightings on. So je comprends bien the work that goes into those productions and the sound, all the equipment that's associated with that. Anyway, so I'm already boring you, I can tell. So there's we had the emergency funding that we went out with, and then there's also been some of the COVID emergency funding that people applied for or could apply for, but again there's always some nuances or gaps that occur, and then the federal government has also announced some funding that will be flowing through us, and we're going to see if there's any gaps that doesn't fill, and again we continue to push some of the other departments to help on that, but we have created a think tank, and that think tank I believe is going to meet next week with the representation from the cultural groups as to again where we can help, and so that's why we're trying to work with them to make sure there's areas that are looked after.
Merci beaucoup pour la réponse through the chair. Donc, c'est clair, je crois, au niveau de l'aide, mon avis personnel, et je pense que l'avis de plusieurs personnes, c'est que c'est pas assez. On va avoir besoin beaucoup plus. Donc, je souhaite qu'il y aura grande réflexion à votre département de ce côté-là pour s'assurer qu'il y a plus d'aide qui est donnée. J'ai une question spécifique ici. En ayant rencontré des membres de la communauté artistique, so for the Strategic Initiatives Fund, in particular here, what I'm hearing in the artistic community is that this fund is not serving them very well. The first come, first served basis is not serving the artistic community very well. The lack of criteria is also not serving the artistic community very well. And if I am not mistaken, it is now an empty fund. There's nothing in it left. And so I'd like to know if the minister is going to review the Strategic Initiatives Fund for the artists and the artist venues. Thank you.
And thank you very much for that question, and through you, Chair. You know, the member has some good points that it's not a perfect situation because COVID hit everybody unexpectedly. I mean, we could argue that point, but there were so many people that were not ready, and so we tried to get a program up and out the door as quickly as possible. And we use some of our stakeholders like Music MB to help us do that. And you're right, it wasn't a bottomless pit that we could just continue to go into. It was a set amount. We do have strategic funding that's our normal funding, and that was considered an emergency funding. And you know, to the member's point, it was put out the door, but we felt it, again, addressed some of the needs, and we'll continue to work with the artists in the culture sector to try and fill some of those needs. And again, with the think tank and with some of the federal programs going on or announced, but you know, we'll try and work with everyone involved. And but you know, to the member's point, yeah, it's not a perfect situation, and it is a difficult situation.
Thank you, Minister, through the chair. And two times you've mentioned the think tank. Could we know who's sitting on that think tank, please? Yeah.
And good question, and again, we're open to suggestions from the members opposite. It hasn't been finalized. The total list hasn't been finalized. There's an initial meeting, I believe, first of next week to kind of say, okay, who do we need to bring in here to make sure we don't miss anybody? So if there's someone that you think should be on that, let us know. And when it's finalized, I'm sure we'd be able to share that with you.
So the minister, there's no one already that's been named on it?
Just for time purposes, why don't we, the answer is yes, part staff, part some of our stakeholders, and we'll send you who's there right now, just to save all the typing and the Skyping and the things like that.
Thank you, Minister. There's no Skyping involved, but I do know what you mean. The Minister had said a while ago that internet wasn't there when he was born, so I do excuse that. He said it himself, right? Don't shoot the messenger. No, thank you for sending that, and I'll check it out and definitely make sure that very important stakeholders of the province is there, and that every region, every sector is involved in this and in thinking. And so I'll be waiting for that list. Yeah, sending that by email will be great. Tourism. So we kind of found the numbers here. Researching is always a fun thing, and looking at provincial spending across Canada on the tourism sector, and so. It's pretty considerable how every province here has upped their game in tourism. This is one of the sectors that is going to be the most hardly hit. Quebec, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland. Quebec has announced 750 million more, Prince Edward Island 66, Newfoundland 25, Ontario 25, Alberta 17, British Columbia 10, we're talking in millions here, and New Brunswick, in the research we could do, I think the number is 0. And so really after COVID, relief here and initiatives. So could the minister please make maybe another announcement today? What's coming? What's coming for the tourism sector? Because this is something I'm really hearing about in my riding. My riding is a very beautiful tourism riding. I invite everyone to come this summer. Kushabukwak National Park is directly in our riding, and many little villages and beautiful spots, rivers and agricultural fields, etc. So I would like to know what's coming for the tourism sector.
Thank you very much. Great question. And yes, you do come from a beautiful area of the province, and I plan to be in that area this summer as I check off my list of places to go. And, you know, when you compare those numbers, yeah, there is a interesting, you know, list that you put forward. And again, I would argue that there has been substantial amounts of money invested, not just from the department, but also, you know, from this government into a number of the small and medium-sized businesses that make up the tourism industry. And that's kind of an interesting when you're comparing us to, say, PEI, where just, you know, again, it's a different comparison. But when you think about the money put out from PEDAL, the $34 million from the emergency, you know, $900, a significant amount of that went to tourism. When you think of the $40,000 loan with a $10,000 non-repayable, a number of those cases or files were the tourism industry. Doesn't show up on our line, it shows up on ONB's line. And through ACOA, there's been a substantial amount of assistance. And you know, when you look at the advertising campaigns and some of the money that we've put out to the arts and culture areas. So it's a bit of an accounting practice, but I would argue that there has been support for the tourism industry. Again, we work with the feds, we work with the stakeholders. We're seeing if there's any gaps, and if we can help fill those gaps, we're more than happy to keep and continue working, because, you know, it's not just now, but it's what about next year, and it's a long game in some of these, because you've got the cruise ship industry that can be considered tourism, that basically is shut down for the summer, but they're already having a significant amount of bookings for next year. So some of that help. Airports are another area that may not be just the tourism sector, but it's more federal, so they have challenges as well. So it's a discussion that we're more than happy to continue to work with the members of the opposition, and especially with the stakeholders in the industry.
Thank you, Minister, through the chair. And some programs mentioned, I understand, you know, sometimes money gets seen elsewhere, but the minister has mentioned some federal programs and some, and these provinces that I'm mentioning had specific programs, and I think probably had similar other programs coming out also. So I do hope that we step up our game and make sure that we're there for our tourism sector that makes a big part of rural economy in New Brunswick.